thou Romeo, deny thy father, refuse thy name, and I'll no longer be a Capulet.
What are you doing?
Rehearsing for my community theater audition. A Shakespearean soliloquy should do it, I think.
You don't have to recite Shakespeare to audition for community theater. You don't have to recite anything. You show up, you read some lines. Pretty easy.
Sure. And now you're going to tell me that I don't have to have a song prepared either. You've got to be kidding me.
Nope, dead serious. You could probably just sing a couple lines of Happy Birthday if you wanted to.
But my agent said that
You have an agent?
Duh. How else would I have my auditions lined up?
You don't need an agent to book your community theater auditions. You just show up at the time on the poster.
This is ridiculous.
I think so too. Okay, but I think there are a couple things you should know before you try going for the role.
Bye, Melissa.
And Megan Malloy. So, auditioning. As I said before, you don't need an agent. You just show up at one of the times you'll see on a poster that'll hang up around town, usually about 2 weeks before audition dates, hear about on the radio, or you'll read in the newspaper. They run ads everywhere so they can get as many people as possible to come to open call. It usually takes about 15 to 30 minutes, and you don't even have to have a song prepared if you're not that serious about it. If you just want to be in the choir or are thinking maybe a smaller part would do for your first try, then you can sing Happy Birthday.
Now, here's a list of some local community theater groups that you can get involved in if this sparks your fancy. First of all, there's Knoxville Area Community Theater, which we're involved in, and they do 2 shows a year. There's a spring show, which usually includes a smaller cast of 8 to 12 members, which is mostly adults, and doesn't involve music, so it'll be like a drama or a comedy. There's also the Union Street Players in Pilla, Iowa, which is a great community theater to be involved with, as well as Newton Community Theater in Newton, Iowa.
So, you got the call. You are cast in the local community theater production. Some things you're going to have to know are your rehearsal schedule. They'll usually email these out or send them by mail if you don't have an email address. Rehearsals are usually 2 times a week to start out with and can run anywhere from an hour and a half to 3 hours. It depends on the kind of musical. And they usually start 6 to 10 weeks before performance, which, you know, is dependent on the kind of show. Like The Sound of Music, which involved a lot of people and many elements, started 10 weeks before the show dates because there was so much to cover with so many people. But the dinner theater that KF did last spring started 6 weeks out and only rehearsed twice a week up until pretty much the end of the show.
And of course, there's always costumes and makeup. If you are cast as a crazy cook who runs the restaurant, maybe her character would be someone who wears that embarrassing button-down dress that's been stuck in your closet for 3 years. Now, in community theater, that's the kind of thing that you do. You would bring this dress in and wear it as your costume because community theaters really don't have enough money to go out and buy new costumes for every show. And so, also, once you're done with these costumes, if you don't want to take them back, you can donate them to a place called the Costume Shop. Now, this is where all the costumes and props are stored in between shows so that they can be reused again in the future. Costumes can also be sewn if the costume shop doesn't have something like a big Renaissance farthingale. There's also makeup, which really won't be done until near the end of rehearsals and during the shows. And since this is a very local thing, everyone does their own makeup. Yes, even the guys. And for some reason, if you can't do your own, like say you're the little 5-year-old that's in the chorus, any cast member will gladly give them a hand.
As she said before, there isn't a set team for makeup. This is the same for set construction. This is done by the cast and their family members, or sometimes the occasional KF board member or board member for USP or the Newton Theater. Set is built by the cast because amateur theaters don't have the financial basis to hire a team of set designers. But as you can see, they usually do pretty well. How they do this is they take the same flats that they used for the walls in every production and just paint over them again, with the exception of the clock in the background of this set. That has been in 8 consecutive Chaos productions because they didn't have the heart to paint over it.
Sometimes a prop is what makes a character. These can also be something that are brought from an actor's home, like a top hat, a pile of fedoras, or a chair. These are also stored at the costume shop with costumes and will be used throughout different shows. And they can also be made when you need them. Like, you see this Dreams for Dummies book in the corner? It's really an art history book that someone was clever enough to print out a page and tape onto it, because all the For Dummies books are much too expensive to have and use in a single show, because that's something that would most likely never be used again.
Now we get to production week. You have been rehearsing with the rest of your castmates and just sort of rolling along. Okay, we bip up every now and again. It's fine. Not production week, or at least not according to the directors. Usually they're pulling their hair out by this point because the actors are not familiar with their costumes or makeup yet, because generally this is the first time anyone has used them. It's not supposed to be that way, but everything kind of rolls together until you get to the end and you're like, oh, production week. It's also the first time when lights and sound effects are used, which also lets it be known as Tech Week. And even though the directors are pulling their hair out and will probably be bald by opening night, it's worth it to me. And this is my favorite part of the show, because everything finally starts to come together and you feel like you could be anyone.
Okay, but that's your opinion. My favorite part is opening night. Your blood is racing and you're standing backstage and you can hear the murmur of the audience, the lights are dimming, and you think, I can't do this. I'm gonna mess up. I'm gonna trip over a prop and make a fool out of myself. But somehow you go out there and you can do it, and it's one of the best feelings you've ever had. But of course, you've had enough time for all these nerves to come up, and especially in the last hour before the show. Makeup call is an hour before the show starts. This is when all the actors have to show up and get their costumes and makeup on, and also it's time to work out any wardrobe malfunctions or kinks at the last minute. Walk-in is half an hour before the show starts. Actors are no longer allowed to leave what's called the green room, which is like a band room or any place backstage there's enough room for the whole cast to fit in. And this corresponds with when the patrons are let in, because honestly it would probably ruin the illusion if you saw a priest and a couple nuns walking around through the hallway. And it would also maybe give away part of the show. And so then you go through the show and you're feeling great. And once it's over, you really don't want it to be over. So what else can you do but go out and have a great time with the rest of the people in the show? So this can be 10:30 at night, and you're going to McDonald's because it's the only place that's still open. And you're dipping French fries in chocolate shakes and laughing so hard that you're crying. And it's an amazing feeling because the people that are in community theater are generally awesome people. And it's one of those things that you'll remember forever.
What are you doing? We have a presentation to finish.
I'm firing my agent. It's hard to give someone commission if you're not getting paid any money.
You could always give him his cut of laughs, memorable moments, new experiences and friends, and public speaking practice.
Yeah, considering my agent is my little brother and he really wants a new gaming system, I doubt that's going to cut it.
Well, you could have him audition.
Yeah, but with my luck, he'd get a lead role. Of course, then he'd have to spend so much time memorizing his lines that he wouldn't even be able to think about video games.
See?
But I just have one more question.
And what's that?
Can I please finish Juliet's soliloquy? I worked really hard on it.
Fine.
Oh, could you cue me in from where I left off?
Shall I hear more, or shall I speak at this?
Tis but thy name that is my enemy. Thou art thyself, but not a Montague. What's Montague? It is nor hand, nor foot, nor arm, nor face, nor any other part belonging to a man. Oh, be some other name. What's in a name? that which we call a rose by any other word would smell as sweet. So Romeo would, were he not Romeo called, retain that dear perfection which he owes without that title. Romeo, doff thy name, and for that name which is no part of thee, take all myself.
Oh, go ahead and bow if you want to.
Any questions?
So how many community theater productions have you been in?
Over the past 4 years, I think, or the question was, how many productions have we been in? Through K-Act, which is basically the only theater we're involved in, we have been in 7 plays throughout the last 4 years. Yes. The question was, did we do The Sound of Music? Yes, we did. We were part of the Nuns Chorus.
I was getting back in the habit.
So are you also involved in school productions?
The question was, are we also involved in school productions? The answer is the high school does a musical each year, and I've been involved in more tech stuff as far as that's concerned. Like, I wanted more experience. Like, I love being out on stage, and I love to speak publicly, and okay, to show off a little bit, but I understand that it's also important to kind of pay my dues and help with things like set construction. I ran the lights for the last musical that the high school put on, and, you know, things like that.